Welcome back for the episode number 3 of the 1983 ATC250R. So where we left off is we had the frame painted, and so now we're going to put the steering stem in. And what I've done is I used a little bit of Napa aluminum brightener. It's just like an acid, but it sure brightened it up and makes it look less, I want to say, deteriorated. The front here, I mean, you can see how shiny that is. This I didn't work too hard on because I've got a new sticker coming. And but you don't want to leave that stuff on there very long. You just want to get a little bristle brush and brush it on and leave it on for maybe a minute. I don't leave it on very long at all, and I just use multiple applications. So let's get this steering stem in. I'm going to grease it up, and I've got that on other videos, so I'm just going to cut right to where the steering stem's installed. The steering stem's all in. Now I'm not tightening this until I get the fork legs in, but you can see that it's looking really good. And I did use the Adams Metal Polish number 2. It worked really, really well. Really well. I mean, it's going to really look sharp. So now I'm going to go in a direction with the rear swing arms while I'm working on aluminum. I'm going to clean up this aluminum stuff here. Probably the shock, and these are aluminum also. All part of the rear suspension. The first piece that I have worked with here is called the, I guess it's a shock connecting rod. But anyhow, this is heavy metal, it's not aluminum. And so it is, I think the plating on here is good. I'm going to get it to shine. I don't want, what I always strive for, you can see where the seal kind of covered that, and that is high silver. But the aging has given it a little bit of a green hue, which I just love. I think that's the you know, if this was brand new, sitting on the showroom floor for 50 years and never ridden, it would look like that. And I think that's really your goal more than if you plated the thing. And, you know, you got to cut the line somewhere too, but this will all get cleaned up. I caught it just in time. This bushing, I drove it out of here. It didn't take much. It went in. It was just starting to stick, so that's really good. And it tells me that even though it sat and sat, it just didn't get driven much. So I'm going to clean all this up and then move on to the next piece. All right, so I got this all cleaned up. I shot some grease through the Zerk just to make sure there was no pluggage, and that just slides right in there. And that is good. Now what I'm going to do is squirt a little grease in there and watch it come out the sides, and then we're good to go. Like so. Came right out the sides there. Coming right out the sides there, so we're golden. Look what I found. This is gold anodized. I cleaned it up real good. I am not I just started to take off a little bit of kind of a rash there, and I got down to silver, so I'm not touching this. This is beautiful. This is just beautiful. So on to the next piece. I did initial cleanup on this just to see what I've got, and I can tell that it's a little darker where the sun didn't hit it. than where the sun has actually hit it. So I think I'm just going to paint it. I was looking at it and thinking, gosh, you know, it's really close to where I could leave it. All this is dirt. And I still don't know, but you can see that with a final cleaning, there's a little pitting here. It's just the fading. I mean, I can tell if you look down here, if you look in here, that is kind of more luxurious and lustrous than up here. And it's really not the light. It just has a little age to it. This is through the paint. And there's a couple of spots. So, still undecided, but we're going to pull it further apart. One other good sign is if you push this out, these come out, they're free. And that is the biggest deal, because those get rusted and frozen up, and there's just not much you can do with it. You got to replace all the bushings, but this is all good. After everything's cleaned, we've got real nice shine on these. So we're golden there, and I just don't like these. Unacceptable. 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 So, off to the swing arm and getting it prepped. So what I did is I got it in the parts washer, and the swing arm, after you've scuffed it, where have I gotten? I've gotten the top here. I don't know if you can see it. It dulls it. That's what I'm after. I don't want anything shiny. This is all dull. So I'm just going to work from one end to the other. And what I'm doing, taking the decal off, I did that with a heat gun. And I'm just giving it a little scuff. But I want to make sure I got every area. So I'm being real methodical about it, because that is going to get probably more abuse than the tank, and the paint could come off, flake off. So anyhow, once you've achieved that dull finish, then move on to the next little area. So it's all scratched, and I'm just giving it a final wipe down before I tape off some of the holes. And just to give you an idea of how long this stuff takes, I've got the football game still on, and you notice that in the first part 1 and part 2. So it shouldn't take you more than a couple of football games, you know, to get to this point. Ha ha ha. Well, anyway. Let's just say it's been 3 weeks of football. But if we get it all cleaned up and taped, we'll be ready to shoot. All taped up. Ready for a couple of coats. Now we're ready for clear. Let this gold just set up till it's just beyond tacky.
And give it a light coat, and then a little heavier foot of clear.
And there's the two coats. Nice and shiny. No scratches. This bar looks beautiful. So now let's just walk away from this thing. Don't even look back for a day or two. So we'll go on to the next item up for bid. I want to give a shout out to Randy here, Rander Computers. And what he did for us is he gave us the Glamis Gold match for the swing arm in the Rust-Oleum. So go to his site, check out his 250. He did a great job. He's helped me out a ton of times, so thank you. Thank you for all that help there, buddy. With the bearing pullers out and an all balls full kit, which gives me the seals. But once I pulled the grease cover, what I found setting it on its end is that these bearings are absolutely smooth as silk. Now that's the old grease. There isn't any dirt, any foreign matter, any metal. And the way this spins, there's no reason to replace these. At least on this side. So let's see what the other side looks like. But what we're going to do first is we're going to repack it with grease, and then we'll move to the other side. Well, my theory's always been, when in doubt, go the extra mile. So these bearings came out fairly easily. And the tube that goes in there is in good shape. And this bearing, it would have cleaned up, but it's not as smooth as this one is. So I've got the bearings. I mean, there's just no reason not to put them in. So new bearings, new seals. The parts needed to be cleaned, and we're going to plate. And there's an upgrade at JT's Customs. This is the old beat up sandblasting kit, and I was lucky enough to come across this Econoline. I had to build a light and cover a hole because it didn't come with the top, and it didn't come with the glass front. And the glass front I robbed off of the old one, and the light I did. But it is a huge difference. It's much larger. I don't need to wear a face mask, it seals. So that's made the plating and all the other stuff a whole lot easier. And the results is very good. They look beautiful, but it's raw metal, so just get a little water on them and they'll rust on you. So we're going to plate them, and this acid bath is taking the plating off. After the sandblaster, the plating is still intact, a lot of it. You can see that one over there is almost done being dissolved. Then it goes into the degreaser bath after I figure out the surface area. There's the sprocket bolts. And here's some of the plated parts. And more plated parts. This is plated in a special black. You can see the little green hue. That's just so factory original. And it takes time to learn how to do that. And some of the parts are starting to show up. This goes on the front forks. And here's a chain guard, which will, it didn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to replace this, but it sure looks nice on a brand new swing arm, freshly painted, to have this chain guard new, chain sprockets new. Now it's on to the forks, and it sure helps to have a few of these old towels that your wife or girlfriend want to give away or throw away, because I'm going to get a mess everywhere, but I want it clean so I can lay the parts out and they will be sanitary. And let's get the oil out. It doesn't look bad, actually. All right, with the fork cap off and the bottom bolt out, start taking out, and there's going to be a lot of oil and it drips everywhere, so let's just see if we can keep it in the, but no, there it goes. And I just like to keep everything in line. Here's the washer, spacer washer, fork cap. Pump out as much of this as you can, but it's just one of those messy jobs. And we'll pump this a little bit more, see if we can get all as much oil as possible out of it. So we've got the outer boot off, and it's obviously, I've got a new one coming. And so now the next thing is to get this seal out. And what we want to do is pull this dust cover off. Now I don't have the proper set, but it gets it out. The proper set would be a 90-degree. Get the snap ring off. And we should be able to take the tube out of here. Yeah, we're going to need to get that out with the seal. Just like that. That's as easy as I've ever had it happen. Now yours is probably not going to be this free of rust. This fork tube is in immaculate condition. You can only see marks where the pinch bolts and the triple clamp mount up, which means these seals were probably good, but I'm going to replace them, of course, because this is a restoration, not just a service. But everything in this is in immaculate condition, if you ask me, for the age of this bike. So with that, this is how the sliding bushing goes, and it's got a washer and it's cupped, and the cup is facing upward against that. So the seal off, and we're ready to start cleaning this tube. I referred to yours might have a little more pitting, a little rust, especially around the triple clamp area and where it was exposed. But if it had the Gator boot on it, it should be good. But most of them, that's gone, and it's been ridden for 20 years without it, and it sat outside, so you might get some pitting. Now in the past, I've picked up a tube on eBay or somewhere else if it's just too far gone. But I know that I've also taken really, really fine, like 4/0 steel wool, and I've shined and polished this up. And really, for a restoration, if it's going to sit in someone's collection, yeah, the fork seal's not all that important. If you're gonna ride it, yeah. My fork tubes in a lot of my vehicles, a lot of my restorations, I don't even put oil back in. I just drop maybe an ounce of oil in the fork tube when I put it together, because it's a static display. It's just going to sit there. You know, I make sure it runs, then I drain the oil on that. So if you've got a little bit of pitting in here, a little bit of rust, just get it out as good as you can. The seal will most likely seal for a while. It's not going to be everlasting or long lasting like something in this condition would be, but if it's never going to get ridden, then it doesn't really matter. So it just depends on what you're restoring this bike for. Okay, so I've got this cleaned out. All the oil's out of the tube. When it comes out the drain hole and out here, it's clean. And something is going to happen here that I have not done before. This tube, if you can see it, you can see where, I think where it's most prevalent would be right along this line. There's a line here where this is the natural. Oh, here we go. This is a better line. So here's the natural. It's bumpy. This is probably right out of the casting. And then they polished it. They ground it at the factory around where they could get to it fairly easily. And then they just stopped right here because you don't see the back of this. So typically I'll sand this and I'll polish it. And in a way, if you don't have to do that, I'm gonna do a little bit of like finish polishing and try to leave this as factory as possible, because a lot of times this is just so bad that you have to do it. It'll never look good. This looks good like it is, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do a little bit better job here of cleaning, and then I'm gonna polish. So I'll show you. Here is the unpolished area where it's got a little bit of oxidation, and then here I don't want to go any brighter than that. I mean, I could keep polishing it to almost chrome, but that's not how it looked when it was on the showroom floor. So this is the look I'm going to take all the way through here, and this is the money side, the front. So I'm going to focus on the front and on the side. And right here, the cap covers this. No need to really get crazy up in here. So we'll get that done. All right, so got it about where I want it. Kind of a dull. You can still see the lines, the machining lines in it. And I used to do that with sandpaper. I still do. I mean, it's just that this one's so close that I really don't care to get it to a high polish. That's, you know, that looks more custom than restored. So I don't know if you can see it, but right in here you've got all these lines from the sanding and machining at the factory, and I really like to retain that. So there is the fork tube, and here's all of the Honda OEM parts. The air cap, I've got a new seal here, and I've got a new seal and stem OEM. Someone put those air cap, you know, the tube that equalizes the pressure on it, which is cool, but it's not original. And all the sealing washers for the bottom of the forks and for the oil drain, and 2 new nuts for oil drains. So we've got everything here to put it back together. And it's all put back together. And And we even have the new Shawa decal. Now both of them are finished. All the new air cap fittings, all OEM. Just looking good. Ready to put into the triple clamps. So after straightening the axle, we don't have the big whoops. They used to go like this. Got it here, got it straight. I cleaned it up. I cleaned up the hubs here and noticed that they were gold, but they're not gold plated, they're painted. So I'm going to paint those. It's not going to take me much, and I'm not going to clear them. I'm just going to do the Glamis gold on them, tape some of the stuff off. And the bearings are in, but I'm waiting for these rubber O-rings to put this into the rear swing arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a lot of cleaning of the rear shock and the rear disc, and probably even a little more plating, so that when these come in, which are going to come here any day, I think they're going to come in today, I'll be able to start reassembling the frame and the motor and rear swing arm. I pulled apart the rear disc, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape it off, and I'm going to repaint this the cloud silver. And one of the things that I really enjoy about doing a really deep restoration is that you do your own plating, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because this is a black, this is a gold. You can see a little gold hue in there, okay? This was silver, but it's completely rusted off. All the plating's out, but you can see it was originally the silver. And then, oddly enough, on the shock, you can see that enough of the gold plating is still on there. So these nuts or bolts were a gold plating, and these are silver. You can see down there in the threads that it's gold. Same up here. So I know someone's going to appreciate the fact that I'm going to go back to the gold on the long bolts and silver on the nuts. So it's plating and cleaning from here on out till we can bring that swing arm up and start reassembling. And there's the hub. It's back to silver. These are the pinch nuts. And these are on the front forks, and they're black. And here's those gold nuts I was talking about. And the rest of these are all color correct. So, like I said, that's kind of the fun of making it just as accurate as possible. And with most of the plating done, I think this is a good time to end this video, because those guys in Shingletown, they get awfully impatient. They call, and I don't answer. I don't answer those guys in Shingletown, but they call and they ask when another video is coming out and when we're gonna have a high-powered 4-cylinder, something like a KZ1000 or a triple Kawasaki or something. But we're going to end this video here, and a sneak preview of coming attractions. Here's a CR80 that's coming up. We're going to be doing that one. And look at this little jewel, a JR50. We're going to be doing that one also. And I know, Joe, in Shingletown, I know that you're getting a little excited because we're actually going to go up to a 250. But look at this guy. This thing's all there. And it's got some incredibly low miles on it. Look at that. 1,900 miles. And the speedometer and tachometer, the coloring is still there. So for Joe, I know 250 for you, Joe, is not enough. Shingletown deserves some big CC. So to keep you quiet in Shingletown, Joe, I know you know what this is. It's a 1978 KZ1000 Z1R in perfect condition for a JT's custom rebuild restoration. So Joe, don't think I'm not listening to you. Here is a KZ1000 Z1R coming your way. So with all that excitement, Joe, I expect to hear my phone ringing, and we're going to break this one off, and we're going to catch you on the next segment, which we're going to do the final assembly. We're going to paint the tank, and then we're going to do a walk around. So thanks for viewing my channel, and please like it and all that good stuff. I don't really drive my channel. I just like to mess with those Shingletown guys, and maybe somebody can get something out of it if they've got a 250R. So until the next video, we'll see you then.